It's been a few days since the release of the highly anticipated Thor: Love and Thunder movie. Everyone's rushing to the cinemas because, of course, we want to see more Thor content. Plus, it's directed by Taika Waititi, so we knew from the start it'd be a bit different. Well, the movie itself seems to want to be two things at once, silly and serious. In this video, we'll be reviewing Thor: Love and Thunder for you guys. First off, Waititi's directorial trademark. We all remember how new Ragnarok was for the world of Marvel. The humor mixed in with some heartwarming scenes, all the tongue-in-cheek. Mix all of that with some bright colors and you've got the amazingly balanced film that is Thor: Ragnarok. Fans everywhere were pretty excited to see what kind of direction Waititi would take in Love and Thunder. Even in his other movies, he has this trademark humor, this self-aware irony. Usually it works wonders. Perhaps everyone's expectations were too high. Well, who knows, but one thing's for sure, the tone of the movie was kind of confusing for everyone. There's this weird kind of self-deprecating comedy that just gets too much in the movie. We get that it's important for Waititi to subvert the typical Marvel movie formula, as he has done in Ragnarok, a successful attempt. But here, with a joke thrown around every 2 minutes, it kinda becomes overkill. When you have superheroes like Thor mocking themselves, you gotta be a bit precise about it. Overdo it, and it just makes them look a little pompous, like they can't get off their high horse and they know it. Waititi managed to dodge that bullet in Ragnarok, but in Love and Thunder, it shot right through. Next, there's Thor's character. Not gonna lie, it was pretty awesome to see Thor hyped up and back to his old self. After the state that he was in Endgame, this movie's a great pick-me-up. If you're in a mood where you just want to watch something without thinking too much, you can get a ticket to Thor: Love and Thunder. Of course, we see Thor lose his dad bod and train to go back to his chiseled, shredded godlike body. Without a doubt, he's the main character of this movie. And you'd think, hey, why wouldn't he be? His name's in the title. Well, yes, but it's also important to remember how Love and Thunder was marketed. Since it was announced that Natalie Portman is making a comeback as Jane Foster, the movie's been all for girl power. She is the new Thor, technically speaking. She's the one who wields Mjolnir now. And if that's not Thor, we don't know what is. In the movie, Jane doesn't seem to break past her sidekick role. Audiences everywhere found that she was kind of overhyped, in the sense that they thought that she'd have a bigger role as a warrior. Of course, there were some badass scenes, but we're talking about the overall role she played. Thor, on the other hand, is his usual mighty self, full of self-confidence. The typical himbo, if you will. Though, we admit we can't resist a himbo. And now, the paradox of it all. Don't get us wrong, the actors really pulled their weight here. The cast is stellar, and it really looks like they did their best with what they had. Natalie Portman and Christian Bale are heavyweight actors who put their whole backs into their roles, as always. Chris Hemsworth has Thor's naive, yet smart sincerity nailed to a T. But the tone is where this one falls short. See, there's this level of childlike silliness to the movie. It really is very goofy. If you enter the cinema at any given point during the movie, you'd catch a witty one-liner or a joke. When it comes to more serious scenes, like the ones with gore, it kind of throws the audience off. The contrast in moods doesn't blend as well as it did in Ragnarok. Plus, the entire storyline of imprisoned kids waiting to be saved by Thor is a really heavy one. When you're dealing with a villain as menacing as Bale's gore, the atmosphere's gotta change into something very scary. It did, sure, but in the grand scheme of things, it was like oil and water. It just didn't mix. When you look at Gore's anti-god stance, you really understand why he feels that way. Love and Thunder does this thing where it's painfully aware of how messed up being a superhero is. It doesn't push the mantle so far that you can call it satire, definitely not at the level of Amazon Prime's The Boys, yet it remains in this limbo state where it's trying to be two things at once. A serious Marvel movie about heroism, but also a tongue-in-cheek comedy about heroism. The balance just doesn't hit right with this one. That being said, it's not a lost cause. Love and Thunder might just be the beginning of a new perspective for Marvel, that heroes aren't the products that you've been hired to sell. They can be different, worse, or better. Once this movie figures out its stance, we'll know what direction the next Thor movies will take. For now, though, this might just be the start of something bigger in Marvel. And hey, baby steps are clumsy and small, but they are really important. And now, some other Marvel news that you may have missed out on. First up, Marvel announces the first gay Spider-Man. The media has a long way to go in terms of inclusivity and representation. But hey, Marvel has been working hard to bring new perspectives to their universe, and the comics now have the first gay Spider-Man. In a tweet, Marvel Comics writer Steve Fox revealed some details about this Spider-Man. Webweaver is his name, and he's described as fearlessly femme. His character design is insane. We mean the black and gold, it's stunning. Fox also stated that Webweaver does not speak for all gay men. To this day, inaccurate stereotypes that cause more harm than good harm the LGBTQ community. Plus, his feminine identity isn't everything about him. He has his own storyline and battles to fight. When the comics are released in September of this year, we'll be able to see all of them up close and personal. If that isn't exciting, then we don't know what is. On top of that, Fox hinted that we'll see Webweaver in Sony's upcoming Into the Spider-Verse animated films. It would be amazing to see him animated in that style, and fans are very excited about it. Webweaver's suit is even inspired by high fashion designers such as McQueen and Mulger. So, we're in for a visual treat. For real, it's gonna be impeccable. Combine that with the appearance of unique spiders, and you've got some fantastic character design on your hands. Next, Scarlet Witch was supposed to be the villain in another movie. After seeing Wanda go absolutely nuts in Doctor Strange 2, there's no doubt that she's a force to be reckoned with. Like her fans on Twitter say, we stand for women's right and women's wrongs. But what if we told you she was originally supposed to be a much bigger villain? Scarlet Witch was supposed to be the villain in Avengers 5 before anything else, according to writer Michael Waldron. Sure, she's always been the hero's black sheep, but Doctor Strange 2 solidified her role as the villain, which turned out to be a second decision. Basically, it goes like this. Waldron explains that Wanda was already a villain in Age of Ultron. She'd had her fill of that character arc in an Avengers film. They decided to cast her as the villain in another film, but it does make you wonder, what would Wanda's character be like if they made her a threat to the Avengers? Of course, seeing her corrupted by the Darkhold and wreaking havoc in the Multiverse of Madness was insane, but to think that she could have been a much bigger villain? Wow. And finally, Marvel ends long-term contracts. We've all heard horror stories of actors being bound by long contracts. It really sounds like a deal with the devil at times. Well, with a franchise as big as Marvel, you gotta keep your viewers wanting more, movie after movie. That's just how it goes. You'll be surprised to know that they've actually left that practice in the past as of late. Kevin Feige, Marvel's president, explained why they took this risk for a more collaborative approach. He believed that actors should want to stay in the Marvel universe for the excitement and the opportunities. It's about the love of acting and their characters, for God's sakes. They shouldn't be forced to make movies because of a contract. Amen to that. No one would want to be imprisoned by a contract for the next 10 years of their life. It would get too much, and Feige recognizes that. Now Marvel has short-term contracts. These are more sellable, according to a former Marvel attorney. Actors find it easier to make movies over the span of a few years instead of whole decades. Who can blame them? Long-term contracts sound insane, to be honest. Thankfully, they're over now. Well, that's all for today's video, folks. What are your thoughts on Thor: Love and Thunder? Let us know in the comments below. And be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content just like this. And we'll see you in the next one.